Hello, you fucks. Welcome to John Cello's Beard Brigade and a very special episode of Talk to the Beard. Special for a couple reasons. Number one, it's because, well, it's only 3 o'clock. Normally we do these at 5 o'clock. Well, that's because of my very special guest today. And actually, it kind of worked out for me today, too, so I kind of appreciated it. Two, because the guest I have on today, I had this gentleman on, I don't know, 6 months or a year ago. I'm not very good with time. But we did a different kind of episode that day. We did an episode where the guest is Roe Horvat, as everyone knows, and Roe actually had kind of a documentary being filmed, and we were going to use a piece of potentially, I don't know for sure or not, a piece of Talk to the Beard, and they were going to put that in the documentary. So we had a very different conversation. It was something I wasn't. To be honest, I wasn't very comfortable with, but we did it. We talked a lot about Roe's sexuality, and it's something that, let's face it, that is not the definition of Roe Horvat by any stretch. But we had this big long conversation about it. I'm really really anxious to have a conversation where we don't have to talk about that the entire time. So I'm really looking forward to this. Now, a couple show notes for this week. First off, we're starting a new project today, and that is by the wonderful the lesbian from Texas, Kelly Fox. I'm looking forward to that. We were supposed to start it earlier today, but we did not due to a couple of technical difficulties on my end. So we're going to be starting that in Discord after today's Talk to the Beard, probably closer to 5 o'clock, somewhere in that range. I'm going to have some dinner first. We are going to be doing a story time for that. I'll drop that into the group later on this week. Also, I think we just got approval for Victoria Sue's book, Baby and the Billionaire. I'll be hitting that on ACX a little later on. That should be out by the end of the week. We've got, of course, the Ramblin' Gremlin episode coming up on Friday, and of course, our regular morning coffee video this Sunday. So we're busy. We're chugging along as normal. I think that's it. Let's go ahead and bring on our guest. We have Mr. Roe Horvat. How the hell are you doing, man?
Hi. I don't know. You're very overwhelming, especially in the beginning. So I'm still like, okay, I'm live.
One of the people that regularly watches this has said a couple times to me, John, you're speed talking. What are you doing? I go like that. That's what I do. So I'm sorry about the I meant to tell you the last time we talked that like I don't want to talk about your sexuality the whole fucking time. It's not, I don't think that's what defines you. I mean, it's a big thing, but I wanted to talk to you more about the books and that sort of thing. But we spent almost the entire episode. I rewatched a bit of it last night, like the entire episode talking about transgender. And don't get me wrong, that's something that needs to be talked about, but I want to learn more about you. And I think there's more, there than that. So you are in, and I've blundered this all week. You're in Sweden, is that correct?
I'm in Sweden.
Excellent.
Yes.
You know,
Gothenburg.
we did talk a bit about that the last time about where you're from, but what time is it there right now? Are you looking at 8 o'clock, 8:30, somewhere in that range?
9. 9.
9?
The kids are
Yeah.
in bed. It's a perfect window for me because the kids are in bed, but I'm not dad yet. So it's like,
That's perfect. I used to do, now you are not a drinker like I was back in the day when my child was younger, but maybe you are. So here was my routine. Okay. I would, kid is in bed. I can, at this point, drink as much as I want and nobody's going to, so is that what happens around your place? Do you like 9 o'clock and you're like, oh
uh,
yeah, crack it.
I wouldn't say that I would drink a lot, but I have like you say, I have a routine. It's not every
Mm-hmm.
day. And I'm one of those lucky people that if I drink more than 2 glasses, I just don't want anymore. So it happens very rarely that I get drunk. So I enjoy the luxury of my like reward some evenings. Yesterday was sake. I had one small bottle of sake, 25 milliliters. I don't know what is it in your land, but like a small one, and
Mm-hmm.
that was my reward. It was amazing.
Yeah,
Today
25, the 25 milliliters is not enough. That's what that is. That's
yeah, not enough to hit it out of the park. No.
we did they have these places called Japanese steakhouses over here. I don't pretend for a second that they're really Japanese, but It's this central grill, and there's like 10 or 12 chairs around the grill. And all of us sit there and watch as a guy that looks Japanese in my mind, he comes out and he cooks in front of you, and he's got like swords and shit that he's chopping meat on the grill with. So they like to play these entertaining games, and one of them is they'll turn around and say, "Open your mouth." And you open your mouth, and they've got a big bottle of sake in a squeeze bottle, and they just shoot it across the grill at you. And see, the thing is, he had oil in his hand a second ago, cooking oil. So you think it's cooking oil. You're like, what the fuck's good? And then it's sake. Now, me being the drunk that I am, I tried to grab it from him. Yeah, that's what I do. One of the people in the crowd, and this is one of those questions you get, asks, "Where do your ideas come from?"
Oh God, yeah. I don't know. I mean, it happens. It happens. I don't know. Uh, I always did that, even when I was little. I told myself stories, very different kind
Mm.
of stories by then, safely so. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But I still do that. I tell myself stories, and then at some point I have to tell myself that not every idea is worth a book. So then you have to like sort it out and put it together. But yeah, I start with a scene. I like imagine a scene and I write it down, and then it either becomes a book or not.
I always found I was a songwriter for years. I was in a band. I was a musician, and
Mhm.
there was almost there's this discussion between the trusting the muse and waiting for the muse, or sitting down and doing your work and trusting that the muse is going to show up one way or the other. I'm sure any creative knows what I'm talking about there. Are you the kind of person that's going to sit down and write regardless and just hope that it shows, or are you a kind of person that's going to wait for the idea to pop?
Well, at some point you don't have a choice, because we all like most of the authors who really have the ambition to like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do with my life. At certain point, you come to a place where you have to sit down and do it, even if you don't feel like it. You have to sit down and do it. And for me, it works really well because I am a workaholic. I always have been. Uh, but sometimes it flows and sometimes it doesn't. So it's not like I wait for an idea to come to me, but I choose what I'm going to write. And sometimes when it doesn't flow, then I sit down and I self edit something else I've written, and it maybe comes or it doesn't. Or I do promo or any other work connected to what I'm supposed to be doing. But yeah, I think my every other day it works and then it doesn't. It's very connected to my sleeping habits. It's connected to what's happening in the world and whatever. It's been really hard these past 2 weeks, by the way. Um,
Mm.
yeah, but I have to, even if I don't feel it coming. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you like you write 2 3 paragraphs and you feel like no no, and then something uncorks and it goes. Sometimes not. Sometimes I'm like, oh god.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's tricky because you're working your ass off to get there, and then you're there and you're the ungrateful shit and go like, oh, I don't want to write today. What I wanted to do.
Well, you mentioned, and I know that there's a war going on your side of the world, which is unfortunate. And I don't want to dwell on that, but I will say that, um, in my experience, in times like that, I throw myself into work tenfold, and oftentimes
Mm,
we both love what we do, but that's my release. It's where I
yeah.
get away. It depends on what's going on too. If it's outside pressures like that, I will hide in my work. If it's
Mm,
inside pressures, if it's um, extreme stress that I put on myself, depression, that sort of thing, oftentimes I will run away from my work. It's a weird separation. I don't understand it. Do you find yourself, using your work as a place to hide? Because really, writing is your second career too. You're still is it a? I don't think graphic artist is the correct word.
Yeah, possibly. I do animation, I do storytelling, but
Mm.
not anymore. I quit in June.
Dude, I did not realize.
So yeah,
Congratulations. Look at that.
thank you.
Yeah.
I quit in June. I still do consulting though, so I still
Mhm.
do day job. But it's a very small part of my schedule. It's like 10 hours a week, maybe 15. The rest is writing.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a little bit of what you're saying is actually on point about the outside pressure and hiding in a story, but it affects what I write because when I escape completely. I go outside of. I mean, I haven't been basically writing contemporary since the pandemic hit because
Mhm.
I went farther away from the reality. So definitely hiding. Yes. um,
Yeah.
mm,
It. I find it a source of embarrassment sometimes. I heard this really interesting. This is off topic, but it kind of relates.
mm,
um, Sam Harris. I'll give all credit where credit's due. Sam Harris. He's a meditation guru, a Western meditation guru, and brilliant man in his own right. Had this whole discourse on lying that I read the other day. Now, lying is near and dear to my heart. I am an alcoholic by trade, and we are con men to the highest nth degree. Um, he had this whole discourse on why lying isn't necessary, why people do it, and why he chooses not to. And at first blush, I'm reading this article, and one of the things I had to do in my sobriety was get rigorously honest, not only with myself, but with people around me. Now, that doesn't mean that if I walk by someone with a large ass, I yell out, "Hey, you got a large ass." That's not necessary. But when it is necessary, when I'm so called upon to do, I'm going to tell the truth. And I take a lot of great. It's a source of pride for me now, and it's been a great change in my life. But I'm also a paid actor. I am literally paid to lie for a living. That's what I do. And there was this whole confluence of ideas for a second. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, well, fuck, I am rigorously honest in my entire life now. I pretend I'm somebody else all day long. It's kind of
but we all know you're pretending. That's a difference. We all know it's fake.
I found this, and I think writers must go through this as well. I have found that I actually take great relish isn't the right word, enjoyment and being able to not be myself for a little bit. And I think that's the refuge of it. That's where I hide. How closely are well, let's use hedonist. That's the one I just worked on. I'm sure you're on
Mhm.
to bigger and better things at this point, but in hedonist,
Yeah.
when you're writing those characters, and especially this is, your intense first person. Are you really seeing yourself as these characters in that moment? Are you living their lives? Are you being them for a moment?
I think I'm the ultimate voyeur. I'm like, I'm
I
with
love
them
it.
in the room, but I'm not them. No. Uh, I haven't come to the point where I would write from my own like personal experience, my own opinions. I get inspired by them and I definitely put them into the work and people see it and find it there if they want to.
Mhm.
But it's not like I'm not bearing my soul, so to say. I did that a little bit with the love song, but again, the story is completely made up. There's nothing in the story that would do anything with my life. I mean, it's just possibly like the emotions and the little bit of references and the mindset of the character, possibly, but it's not autobiographic in any way. Uh, but what I find, and this also relates to what you're saying about both escapism and the lying, uh, what I find amazing about writing is that it demands such extreme focus that you are able to leave yourself completely out of it because you're so focused onto the story, onto those characters, on the conversation that you are having with them. uh, I have a friend who's a psychotherapist, and
Mhm.
she had this amazing metaphor or idea where she compared writing and psychotherapy. Like when you are with a client as a therapist, you have to like leave yourself, leave the ego behind, and you have to be completely focused on the other person. And that's what you're doing when you're a writer and you're writing a character. You have to be completely focused on the other person, and you're all the time in this like, what is he doing, who is he, what would he do, or she or them. And I love the complete immersion in the process where you like wake up after 1 hour, you go, oh, here I am in Sweden, huh, and I'm hungry, I forgot to pee, that kind of focus. It's amazing, I love it.
I I live for it. I live for every second of that. Hedonist was a great example of it, where for a second I got to be a king in a world where I can shoot babies out my butt. It was it was, but it really the reactions, and your psychotherapist friend probably nailed it. And I don't know how much you think about this when I'm in a scene. And I am a character, I have to think about how I feel about other characters in that scene and in the room. That's level one. That is what I'm reacting to as that character. So, for instance, if there's somebody I dislike in the room, I'm going to talk to them very differently than if it's somebody that I really do like. I'm going to talk to somebody very differently if they are of an elderly age, and that's the kind of way I was brought up, than if I'm talking to somebody that's younger to me, a child. Those are what I like to think of as level one reactionary. That helps me interpret how I'm going to say my lines. Now, there's something else that goes on too, though. What happened right before I walked into that room? What is my mindset from there? From the previous scene, maybe I'm taking it from. If there is no information on the page, I kind of have to make that up in my own head to think about it. I'm going to react very differently to all of that scenario if I just walked in from somebody died. And I just reacted to that and I'm walking in, versus I just walked in after getting laid. Two very different mindsets to go on. And all of that puts me into an imaginary world that I can live in and enjoy and not be myself for a minute, which is phenomenal. So with Hedonist, you say that this isn't about you, and I can assume that because you are, in fact, not not a king who spits babies out his butt. Um,
Nope.
um, but it obviously it reeked you, the style of it, to me. It's you have you have a writing style that I could recognize in 100 yards. It's really really cool. You have a poetic way about you, and I like it. What parts in this particular story were you? What parts did you put in that were in fact you? I know that you say those are not my characters, but little pieces. Can you define anything?
Mm, I can define the things that I would like, because now we're going into the ego part, right? And sometimes I might, and you're an actor, you're gonna know what I'm talking about. Is it something that I really am, or is it something that I want to be? Or is it something that I want other people to think that I am? And sometimes we people who spend a lot of time in our heads have trouble distinguishing between those three, right? So take it with a grain of salt or whatever. But yeah, I love the sarcasm. Um, there is sarcasm. There is the power play, all these little shifts in who gets to say what, and that's like on the small level, the conversations that Sebastian has with his ministers, for example, or the conversation, if you remember it, between Kai and Jonah, where like they are like deciding who's gonna have the upper hand. I love these subtle conversations where you like with one line you define your relationship to the other person in a very like um, subtle way. So I like those, and I think this is something that I myself enjoy in conversations with my friends, with my husbands. These small plays that we play and that we laugh at. Also, sexual freedom. I know a lot about sexual freedom. Uh, so you know I come from a culture that's laid with layers of shame, a lot of shame, and I have been like really enjoying this path where I was able to like leave that behind. It's like past maybe 10 years, ever so slowly, working through that, and so that's awesome. Um, there is a huge women rights metaphor. Some noticed, some didn't. Whatever. Yeah, I put it in a little bit. Swedishness. There's a lot of Swedishness, but the Swedishness, I think, it will come clear in the second book. There is like the whole taking care of a child the Swedish way thing. It's gonna be fun.
I'm so happy that you are the author that took me up on this challenge, because let's be honest here. For this could have also just been a conversation about fucking, just like this. And really, there's
Mm.
a hell of a lot of fucking from beginning to end of this
There is a
book.
lot of, yeah.
But goddamn, it's a piece of art, dude. You made a piece of art. It's pretty incredible. The power play that happens, and I don't think I'm giving any spoilers away here.
Mm.
One of the characters is a stable boy, and the stable boy is King falls in love with stable boy, that sort of situation. But the power play dynamic that happens is the stable boy ends up basically dominating the king, and the king in his own mind is coming to the point where he understands very quickly, no one's ever talked to me like this before, and I think I freaking like it. That's
Mm.
one of the power plays that happens, the dynamic that's going on. It's gorgeous, in every way, shape, or form. Also, the Roman-esque bath style orgies that are happening is a is a sight to behold, to say the least. He fucks everybody. It's not just a
Yeah.
stable. He fucks everybody. It's fantastic. Uh, the yeah, I lost my place there for a second because I was my thoughts for a second because I was thinking of one particular scene where um, more cum goes into one butt than should possibly be. I mean, it's just and it's actually it's held in the butt for a long period of just cum after cum after. Sorry, that made me
That's
giggle.
the whole point. It's in the title. It's in the title. It's like it's everything that's humanly possible and what's not humanly possible. And like, actually, I few times when I was writing the book, I was like, what kind of combination haven't I done yet? Oh, this one. Okay, let's put that one in as well.
I
So
was
that happened
waiting.
a few
I
times.
was waiting on the horse. I was totally waiting on the horse. I was like,
No,
there's,
no,
I know,
there
we
goes
can't.
my limit.
I was
But
like,
you got
my
Henry
God.
Miller. I mean, he does that, and he's not afraid of that. But you can read
Uh,
Henry Miller.
yeah, well, I mean, I understand the bestiality and all that being said, but I mean, to be
Mm.
fair, the stable boy is hung like a horse, so I mean, we get that at least, which
We
is
get the
good.
metaphor. We get the
Yeah.
metaphor. Roll with that.
Um.
Yeah. No, but by the way, I have to correct you because there is also the dynamics in the society. So you call him stable boy. He's not. He's the like the how to call it. He oversees the stables. He has stable boys who, of course, have to be amigas because you have all the hierarchy in the society and everything. And that's why it's also so important in the story that the main character, the king, is actually an amiga. So it's like a, you know,
mhm.
hence the women rights analogy and all of that.
The women's rights analogy is very commonplace in most alpha omega verse, I guess is how you'd say it, style stories that I see, and some do it, in my opinion, some do it better than others. This was a gorgeous example of it, in a number of ways. The fact is that women have not had equal rights for, I mean, I don't know, even to this day. I'm not sure. I'm not a woman. I don't experience it. I don't live that sort of thing. But I will say this has come to pass in a lot of ways. And actually, I don't know if you know that you did this or not, but you touched on it at least somewhat in this book. Just
Mhm.
the when I walk down a street, let's say, I don't walk down many streets these days. I live in the country. Well, when I walk down the
Mm.
street, I'm typically not physically worried for my life if I see three
Mm.
females walking down the street, at me. I typically don't fear for my safety or anything like. It's just not something that crosses my mind. Whereas a female, rightfully so, probably does. If three men are coming at a female, there's this whole physical aspect of it. Of men are typically just larger. This is that simple. We're stronger in a number of ways. I haven't had to live that.
Mm.
Whereas, and you obviously express it in the story, the size difference between just an
Yeah.
alpha and omega and that sort of thing. I don't know what that's like, but I do appreciate the fact that we're getting a lot of it out there. One of the people in the crowd asked when the audio is releasing. This is an interesting discussion here. First off, thank you for your patience with this. Roe is incredibly meticulously organized. It is. It is. I enjoy it a great deal. We line these up several months in advance, and I think the story here goes. You had four short stories already written, five novellas. Is that?
Six. There are six actually. The sixth one is coming now, but it will be in a small scale. But yeah, six parts. So the first one, King's Heat, is one, two, three, and the second one, King's May, is gonna be four, five, six, and then I have a few bonuses as well that will hopefully come out in the summer.
So when we started discussing this, I actually approached you, and it's because a couple of the people that I'm friends with approached me, and because I kind of had. I had my ears to the ground, my minions, so to speak. I had the Brigadiers looking out for a project like this. And you took up the challenge. Somebody told me, and I immediately contacted you and said, hey, I want to do this. So you arranged it. So basically all these novellas you had, we were going to put them into two bundles and put them out.
Mm.
You gave me a Google Docs schedule with your editing deadline and all that fun shit and a deadline when I should start the audiobook. And I was impressed. It was amazing. I was like, wow, this dude can fucking, not only can he write, but he can manage. This is awesome. This is perfect. We're going to line it up this way. And then I fucked it all up, which is
No,
pretty
you
much,
managed.
it's pretty much what I do. Now, that being said, we were under a restriction, and I think we've perhaps turned lemons into lemonades here. Lemonades. Anyways, we maybe turned a bad situation into a good one because you were in Sweden, and my main distributor that I use, ACX, you cannot deal with in Sweden. And based on our pay structure, we're doing a royalty share on this. It just couldn't go down that way, so we started looking for different distributors. So I think that we found a decent one. I'm excited about the potential of it. Audiobooks Unleashed. I talked about this on Sunday with the crowd and Morning Coffee, and
Yeah.
this crowd is very savvy about this sort of thing. But the problem here is, see, normally when I go through ACX, I'm John Solo. I'm kind of a big deal. When I go through ACX, normally if I submit a book, it will be out in 3 days, somewhere in there, maybe 4 days, somewhere. It goes really, really quick when I go through ACX these days. I have no idea how long it's going to take with Audiobooks Unleashed. But we submitted the book to them I think both of us signed off on it last Wednesday, somewhere in there. And it's kind of up to the gods now to see how long it takes. But I'm hoping very, very, very soon. Now, the cool thing here, too, is that we already have the other bundle scheduled. We're going to be working on that, I think, in April, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And we'll get that knocked out too. So you won't have to wait too awful long before the next bundle comes out. I'm talking so much about this for two reasons. One, it's because I'm getting paid royalty share and I want to sell a bunch of them. So, hey, there's the honesty factor. Two is that this is good shit. It's I have done many a book with just sex from beginning to end. In fact, that was the first 2 years of my career, if anybody's following me. It just sex, 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 sex. There's a difference between that and what we've created here. This is fucking art, and there's a real story behind it. I joked 100 times saying it's just fucking. No, there's an actual story. But just like in Adam Only, you have managed to actually make a character arc in a sex scene. I have no idea how you fucking do that, but I'm jealous, and I've never seen anybody else pull it off. So somebody asked a while back in here, and I think that we talked about this in our last Talk to the Beard a little bit, but somebody asked again. So does your family know what you write?
Ha. That's why I call them those other books. You know, the series that I did before I went into pressures and all that thing. I had, and you mentioned Adam Only. It's a part of those series of the series. Those other books. I read those other books. That's how my mom calls them. Uh,
It's fantastic.
but yeah, I mean, they know. My dad is a little bit cooler with that than my mom is. My dad is like I think he's impressed. He would never read it, but he's impressed. Uh, and he read the Love Song, by the way. That's the one that's like, you know, acceptable.
Your father is like a rocket scientist or something, isn't he? If I remember correctly.
No, well, he's he's a physicist. He's a physicist,
Okay.
and yeah, I mean, not a rocket scientist, but it sounds cooler. Yeah, no, he's a physicist, and he's very down to earth and very like, he's a little bit of a Sheldon Cooper, but very, practical.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's very supportive also, which is great. My mom is great in her own way, but this is a little bit too much for her. So it's like, yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
understand.
But my sister read a few of my books, so that was also awesome to be able to share with her. I was a popular topic at work at some point. We had like, when I was still employed, we had like new employees coming in, and it was like this cool IT company, young people parties. It was a very relaxed atmosphere, and you have to remember we're in Sweden, so it's like none of these things are an issue. So we had this quiz at a work action, and I don't think I told this story. I hope I didn't,
Mm-mm.
so I'm not repeating myself. So 15 people in the room, 3 new employees, and we had like a quiz where the new employees were supposed to guess who it is. So we had like, yeah, dance at the club for a living for 2 years in Berlin, and they were supposed to guess which person from the company did that. So of course there was the gay erotica writer. So, well, few were surprised.
Well, you're incredibly good at it, so that's one thing. But also, in the scheme of things, looking at either one of us, I don't think anyone would guess our true profession. There's just it's just not. I certainly would not guess. And now we've talked about this before. I met you at EPC several years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And at the time, I did not know that you were an author even. I
Yeah.
didn't. Speaking of, are you got any plans for traveling here in the next year or two? Are you going to get out and about again?
I have booked myself to UK Meet, so that I
Ah,
hope will happen in September.
mm-hmm,
Southampton,
mm-hmm.
UK. So that's a plan. We'll see how the world will look like, because you can't count on anything these days. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely in the books. I'm looking forward to it because I haven't seen anybody for so many years, and you know, keeping in touch online, doing these kind of things, calls and stuff like that. It's amazing. It's great that we are able to do it, but well, it's
Well,
not
it's not.
sufficient in the long term.
It's not the same. I
No.
really. By the way, there are several people in the crowd that are jumping in saying that they're going to be there, possibly be there, that sort of thing. So you're
Mhm.
definitely going to have some people showing up. Um,
You're coming?
w- I'm not, and for a number
Mm.
of reasons. But one is, I uh, I I got burned a few years ago on plane tickets and shit. I'm just like, I'm gonna wait and see where the dust settles over there before I start booking trips overseas. Now I'm going to GRL,
Mm.
but I'm not.
Mm.
I, dude, I lost like it was a lot of money, um, uh,
Mm.
and a couple of them were domestic flights too. But I never did get my money
Mm.
back, credits or anything else. So I'm just waiting to see.
Mm.
I'm supposed to go to Australia in 2023
Mm.
for one of those conventions there. I was invited to one in Scotland here this year. I think those are the Glows, or
Oh.
I don't know. It was I forget the name of each one here. But I was invited to a couple over
Mm,
there, and I cautiously said I'm not quite sure yet.
mm.
And I'm not
Yeah,
exactly. I don't
he's
know
been
how all
crazy
this is
with
going to
the.
go down.
Mm.
Go ahead, please. I don't know how any of these are
No,
going
no,
to go
no.
down. I mean, how is I didn't want to talk about the war too much because we're kind of entertainers here, but I know that it's close enough to you that it's affecting you. How how
Mhm.
is how is your little area responding? I mean,
Uh, it's a very complex and long question, but yeah, I mean we are looking at approximately 5 million refugees
hmm
in Central Europe and Sweden, Germany. So 1.5 has already left, and still those 5 million refugees will be only like 10% of the entire country. So it can be
hmm
even more. So this is way bigger than the Syrian crisis was a few years back.
hmm
Um, so yeah, but there is a bunch of factors that are making this a very difficult topic. So I mean, we're doing what we can at our end. I've Somebody wants to know it. Airbnb is making it possible to offer free housing for refugees and people in crisis. So if you want to register with Airbnb, if you have an extra room, extra house, whatever, you can do that. A bunch of people in Sweden are doing that because I mean, if we have something, it's space. We have a lot of space. um, but yeah, it's affecting everybody, I think, in
hmm
different grades. I mean, there are people who are seriously afraid in Slovakia, in Poland, in the countries that have borders with Ukraine, that have been there, know how it is. I was born with the Russian tank behind the window, so you know. Um, but even in the countries that feel relatively safe because NATO and everything, uh, no, it's been difficult. Everybody's talking about it. There isn't nothing else on the news than this. COVID feels like 2 years ago. Like that just gone. We
hmm
we got some other fish to fry right now. So yeah. So about the escapism, this is the good thing. No, this is the good thing. I actually did a post in my group because I felt like I'm like I can't just go and publish hedonist March 1st. It's like there's a fucking war going on. I'm gonna
hmm
go out and do this, right? So I spent a few days thinking about it, like what am I doing? Why does this even make sense at a time like this? And then I realized that it totally does, because uh, it's the escapism, and it's the people who are messaging me like, I've been having a bad time. I'm really happy to hide in your book for a while. I'm like, yes. Also, this is a little bit of a bonus. This is exactly the kind of shit that's forbidden in Russia. It's this total gay propaganda. It's like, you know, worst possible kind. So that's a little bit of a bonus. But
We went through
also,
the same
when I
thing
when I
here.
yeah, it's like, let's keep working, let's keep earning the money, let's keep paying the taxes, let's keep going on with everything so that we can. Well, I don't know. This room is the one that I going offering at the Airbnb. So I don't know. I mean, I need to keep working and living and be mentally and economically functional so I can help somebody else, so I can keep functioning. I don't know. It's
You 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 hit a
ugh.
couple really important things here to me.
Mm,
I'm just a fucking actor. Nobody is looking to me for advice. But I will say this: when COVID hit, obviously we went through a lot of struggles here, and
mm,
I'm in the Midwest in America as well. So take that for what it's worth. But that is where my my career like it just like started going up, like, because people needed to be entertained at that point. They
mm,
absolutely needed to forget, and I get that. I understand it entirely. there was a bit of a guilt factor involved because my career suddenly started to take off. I was making a good living before, but suddenly when COVID hit, I was turning down more work than I was accepting. And
Mm.
trying to help other people again get into the industry, shoving jobs here and there and everywhere. Like
Mm.
if you know what you're doing, if you've got a booth, if you
Mm.
got any acting experience at all, people need this, and they obviously did. Now, that being said, you mentioned what is on in the news all the time, and I find myself I try and pay just enough attention so I know what's going on. But
Mm.
the only thing that I can do personally is just be the best fucking me I can be. That's all there is
Mm.
to it. Just be the best me I can on a daily basis. Now, I've not got people with guns outside my door or anything like that. If I
Mm.
did, it would probably be a different matter. But my job today is to be a better me than I was the day before. Sometimes I fail at that, but for the most part, I continually make some progress. And you are being the best Roe Horvat you can possibly be. Please, for the love of God, publish more. Don't publish less. Um,
Yeah.
I found when I first started doing Talk to the Beard and a few of the other things I do in my channel here was in reaction to COVID. There was a lot of people
Mm.
that were stuck at home, and I was like, well, I can read. I'll do a little story time segment, half hour a night just to
Mm.
entertain people. And there was like a flock of people that were like,
Mm.
yes, we need entertainment. So put out more. Do as much as you
Mm.
possibly can, please. We all need you. Roe Horvat, be a patriot. Step up. Take one for the team.
Well, see, it works immensely because I need the escapism, and my way of escapism is producing stuff so other people can escape into it. So,
Mm,
and you
you,
do the
you,
same, right? So it's
yeah, you did good. I would like to pretend, and sometimes I do, that I'm just a mercenary and I just do it for money and that sort of thing. But I'm always like I would continue to be an actor. I would continue to be in this booth. I already make enough money that I probably don't have to work as much as I do. But I just really kind of like what I do, so I keep on doing it. And this is like, that's why most of the time I do it most every day. I just can't
Mm.
help doing it. And I think that's when you know you're like you were working a day job and still writing at the same time. Nobody could stop you from writing. That's kind of where I'm at too. Nobody can stop me from acting. Anyways, a couple of things here. One, I
Yeah.
missed a shit ton of questions. I know I did, guys. I'm sorry. I find myself focusing on my guests these days, and I'm trying to do that more. So I tried to catch as many as I can. Ro, if you could at some point in the next day or two jump into the comments and answer the ones I missed, that'd be
Mm.
awesome. Two, I know we talked a lot about Hedonist. What else do you have coming
Mm.
out? Anything?
Oh yeah. I got well, partially Hedonist 2 and all the short stories that are connected to it. Uh, and then I have another work in progress. I did a book in December. It was called Ugly, and I didn't know it was going to be a first in a series, but it is a first in a series. So there's gonna be, uh,
Mm,
it's a classic. It's standalones, but the characters are like kind of connected or whatever.
mm.
But I'm gonna be hopefully releasing another in that series during the spring. It's going to be called Unexpected, and it's very similar to Ugly in the atmosphere and kind of the way the book is written. It's a comfort book, and it's a lot about protectiveness and finding home and all these nice things. So yeah, it's an ice cream cake of a book, definitely. And they don't even kiss until the seventh chapter. I realized yesterday, I wrote it in my group. I was like, guys, I'm writing a book where they don't even kiss until the chapter 7. Can you believe it? And
Well,
nobody
you
said anything. No,
they could
no, it was fine.
they could still fuck. They just
Yeah, they do. I mean, after that, the gloves are off. But they needed time. You just kind of you interact with the characters and you realize like they need time. I can't just throw them in the room and lock the door. It doesn't work. So yeah. But I wanted to say one thing. You kept talking about acting, and I never got around to it. But I was seriously impressed when I listened to Hedonist. I listened to it one day and a half. Like I had it on. I had it in my headphones when I walked the dog and when I cleaned the house and all these things. I had to be doing something. I couldn't just sit and listen to it because I was like, yeah, I couldn't. I
Your
couldn't. I
your
was
hands wanted to do something. I bet that's it.
no, actually, no. It's very weird. It's very weird because I've written this. Okay, so it's like yeah, it's very different than listening to a porn book that somebody else has written. So anyway, so I heard my own words told to, to me by you, and I was like, and I was so impressed by the thing that you described before. When you like you get into the character, and I would say now, despite the fact that the character is androgynous being that has butt babies and all these weird shit that happens, you immerse yourself into the character and you do exactly the thing that you described, that you say it in a way when I'm like, that's what I've been missing. That's what I couldn't put on the paper. That's what I couldn't type. You put it in the tone of voice, and it's like perfection. So I was so happy listening to it. It was great. It was amazing. So thank you. You did a fantastic job. Really,
Ro,
it's great.
normally,
I love it.
normally, normally I would respond to this with sarcasm and deflection. That's normally what I. But thank you. That's high compliments. I saw something the other day that meant a lot to me, and it pissed me off at first, and then I thought about it in a different light. I was reading in us narrators, we have our forums too. I know the writers, you all go to your groups and your forums, and there's this like little secret, and you wear big hats and you talk about us and stuff. So us narrators, we have the same thing going on occasionally. And there was a well-known editor. Editor means they do the post work on narrator stuff, and editors are a vital, important. I would not sound like me without a great editor. That's just the way it is. So this very well-known editor was talking about the romance genre in particular. And this well-known editor said that the vast majority of romance narrators are not actors, that people are listening to them because of their sexy voice, and that you can tell if a romance narrator is good or not as an actor if they continue working in romance and they never get anything else. They're not a good actor. If they branch out eventually, like romance is like a training ground, I think is what she was implying, that they actually have good acting chops. Now this pissed me off.
Boo!
Pissed me off to no end. And it pissed me off for a number of reasons. And one is now, when I first started in my career, I was not an actor. I just fucking wasn't. I feel bad for my first 50 clients because I was learning. I was learning on the job. These days, I am an actor. I am, and I really appreciate you saying it means a lot to me because you observed something that is a difference between somebody that can act and somebody that doesn't. I think that's, in my mind, it is. But I really felt bad for this editor chick because in the same comments she mentioned that she still edits a lot of romance. So you know what's worse than being a person that can't act, narrating books and romance all the time? It's having to listen and edit people's books that can't act in romance the entire time. And I kind of looked at it in a different light. I was like, wow, she has very low opinion of her fucking clients, doesn't she? That's absolutely horrible. And I felt bad for her because not only does she have a low opinion of her clients, but she's also stuck listening to those people that she really detests for the rest of her life, apparently to make money. And that has to be a sad existence.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has to be horrible. Plus, I hired that chick once years ago to edit one of my books, and I never hired her again because she fucking sucked. But that's just my opinion. Anyways, thank you so much. I appreciate this. As everybody knows, this will be on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks so much. Give us a like if you possibly can. I will send you the link tomorrow so you can post it up in your group or wherever you want. I appreciate your time. Everybody, thank you so much. I'll be on in Discord in about an hour and 10 minutes, somewhere in that range, somewhere around 5 o'clock. Y'all have fun, and Ro, all you got to do now is wave at the camera and say bye.
Bye.